So with the Age of Apocalypse starting on Monday, we first need to jump in and make a video about Bishop. And the reason for this is because while Bishop was most prominent during his run with the X-Men in the 1990s, he's quite possibly the single most important character in the Age of Apocalypse, in that he's the reason for the recognition that things aren't the way they're supposed to be. And basically the plan is formed by Magneto, which results in the defeat of Apocalypse at the end of the Age of Apocalypse event. Now, while Bishop first appears in Uncanny X-Men issue number 282 in 1991, his origin story is actually given to us in his solo series, which is titled Xavier Security Enforcers in 1996. But over the course of his existence in Marvel Comics, we've also received these little tidbits of information regarding what brought about his future. And so what we'll be doing here is basically folding all these elements, all these things together to give you this full origin story of Bishop in Marvel Comics proper. Now, what we're told in this original story from the Xavier Security Enforcers series is that Bishop grew up in a future very similar to the Days of Future Past, in the sense that at some point an event happened in the history of this reality which resulted in the relaunch of the Sentinel program and their eventual takeover of North America. Now, where in the Days of Future Past, humans and mutants existed in subservience to Sentinels, and with no real end in sight, in Bishop's timeline, an event occurred called the Summers Rebellion, where humans and mutants banded together to eliminate the Sentinels entirely, which resulted in this sort of uneasy truce between humans and mutants themselves. Now, as part of this truce, mutants were basically allowed to police themselves, resulting in the establishment of the Xavier Security Enforcers Agency, which was really named after the X-Men and Charles Xavier himself. But Bishop himself, along with his sister Shard, were actually born during the Summers Rebellion, but before the liberation of both humans and mutants. And so, due to being born in a concentration camp, they were both branded with an M on their faces to establish that they were mutants to anyone who looked at them. Now, once the Summers Rebellion ends, and with Bishop and Shard into their preteen years, probably around maybe 12 or 13 years old, both individuals had idolized a group called the Exhumes, which were very extreme radicals, very similar to the present-day Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. And the reason for Bishop and Shard idolizing this group was because as they had grown up, they were constantly told stories of the X-Men by their grandmother, but without actually having met the X-Men themselves, Bishop and Shard basically grew to believe that the actions of the Exhumes fell in line with what the X-Men would have done under this situation. But ultimately, their views change when Shard is attacked and kidnapped by the Exhumes, and she's rescued by the XSE. Now, once both Shard and Bishop grow into their late teens, around the age of 16 or 17, of course I'm just kind of guessing, they don't really give us an actual age here, they both end up joining the XSE in an effort to honor the memory of their late grandmother and the memory of the X-Men. But during this time, Shard becomes attached to one of the students named Trevor Fitzroy. Now, where Fitzroy was eventually revealed to be a criminal, Shard found herself extremely attached to Fitzroy, and when Fitzroy was recruited by a subsect of the Xavier Security Enforcers called the Xavier Underground Enforcers in order to travel to the present day and stop the event that had caused their timeline, Shard had basically turned against Trevor, leading to Bishop traveling to the present day in order to stop Fitzroy. Now, in terms of Bishop's continuity in Marvel Comics, this moment of Bishop traveling into the present day from his future is basically his first chronological appearance with Uncanny X-Men number 282. Now, when Bishop first arrives in the past, arrives in the present day rather, to capture Fitzroy, he's immediately enamored by the arrival of the X-Men, but he believes that the presence of the X-Men is actually some kind of trick or some kind of ruse at the hands of Fitzroy, and so he begins battling the X-Men. Now, during this battle, Bishop demonstrates his power to absorb massive amounts of energy and actually project that energy back, meaning that he can basically absorb the optic blast of Cyclops and project them back as the same form of energy or as a concussive blast of energy. He can absorb the explosive nature of Gambit's throwing cards. He can absorb the weather of Storm whenever she uses her powers on him. Again, he can do this with a massive amount of energy. But what ends up happening here is that, again, while Trevor Fitzroy escapes, that over the course of issues number 282 going to issues number 285, the Bishop uses this time to continue his mission to capture Trevor Fitzroy, but he also monitors the X-Men. Now, in issue number 285, Bishop's actually successful in capturing Trevor Fitzroy and sending him back to the future, but he's also come to the conclusion that these X-Men are legitimate. They are the real deal. And so what he does is he basically takes this time to stay in the past or stay in the present day in order to try to find or keep an eye out for the event that causes his future and keep it from happening. And that's his entire purpose in Marvel Comics, all the way from the time that he first shows up in the original Uncanny X-Men number 282 until the events of the Messiah Complex, his purpose is to basically keep an eye out for what the event is that causes his timeline to take place and stop the event so that his timeline will never come to fruition. It'll never be as dark as it is. Now, again, from the time that he first showed up until the Messiah Complex, we never found out what the event was. Marvel never told us. They dropped hints from time to time, which indicated that there was possibly a traitor associated with the X-Men, or possibly even one of the X-Men themselves was the traitor, but it was never stated absolutely by Marvel. In 2007, this all changed with the fallout of the House of M and the Messiah Complex storyline. What we're told is that when the Scarlet Witch had stripped 98% of the mutant population of their powers, that within a year, a child was born as the first mutant born since the House of M event, and over the course of the Messiah Complex event itself, it's revealed to us that this child, which is now referred to as Hope Summers, would actually go on to kill 1 million humans, which was the reason for why Bishop's timeline came into existence in the first place. Now, of course, as we know now, Bishop's timeline is not going to happen, simply because we know that the multiverse is gone. All those different things were simply existing with Secret Wars. But with regards to the Age of Apocalypse event itself, what we're going to find here is that with Bishop having originated in the future of an alternate reality, when the Age of Apocalypse kicks off, he's not going to be affected by the change in reality. And so as a result, he'll be the catalyst for why Magneto enacts a plan to overthrow Apocalypse and restore the timeline back to normal. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and bring this video to an end. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, let me know, and I will catch you guys later. Peace.